Make-A-Wish employees. What was the strangest thing a Make-A-Wish kid asked for and actually received? I didn't use my wish for 18 years because I have sickle cell anemia, and that condition doesn't really have a cure. I never knew what I wanted to do. I always knew it was a lot of power because I was a really self-aware kid. I ended up giving a few Nintendo Switches to the hematology ward in the hospital I spent so much time in. I never told anyone in real life about this. I think it's pretty weird and personal wish. Story 2. One of my closest friends had a second bout of cancer in his mid-20s. It was his dream to join the military, but due to having cancer in his teens and major spinal surgery related to it, he couldn't. He asked to meet Don Shipley, the guy who runs the civilian Navy SEAL camp in the South and also regularly calls out and tracks down phoned Navy SEALs. Don wasn't able to travel to meet up with him, but Don called him. They had a great conversation. He told him, "I hope you beat this thing, and then the beers are on me." Unfortunately, he didn't beat this bout of cancer and passed away at home with his family. I and another friend took turns helping take care of him near the end, and mostly just gave him company in his last days. He had a hospice nurse as well. I still miss him. Love you, buddy. Rest in peace. Story 3. My daughter had a genetic neuromuscular disease with an average life expectancy of 24 months. Most children with this disease are above average intelligence. This child was extremely intelligent. Most children are putting only 2 words together, but mine was saying 7 to 9 word sentences. Make-A-Wish typically wants the child to be 3 years old, because most children younger than 3 are not able to express their wish. She was 2.5 and was able to tell them exactly what she wanted. She wanted to meet Barney and Baby Bop. Fortunately, they were owned by Disney, and we got to meet them at Give Kids the World. And it was great we got to go to Disney because she also loved and got to meet all the princesses. She loved the parades and Animal Kingdom too. Another plus, my mother was in a short remission with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and was able to make the trip with us. My mom died 2 years after. My daughter died 13 years after the trip. Yeah, she lived to be 15 years old. It's just the definition of bittersweet. A life expectancy of 24 months and you absolutely destroy it, but that still means only 15 years. From the way OP talks about it though, I'm sure that they gave her the best 15 years anyone could ask for. I feel like OP probably has a very good grasp on the value of life. Rest in peace to your daughter, OP. Story 4. Not weird, but a funny experience. Through a similar organization supporting young adults with cancer, my best friend was offered tickets to One Direction. She accepted. The org had about 50 tickets and asked me to go. One Direction were right at the peak of popularity, but we both only knew one of their songs. We decided that we really should know a few more before we went, so we trekked to a record shop in her wheelchair and asked the young guy for their album. Which one? Turned out they had released 3 already. When we got to the concert, we thought the warm-up act was the real band and were gobsmacked to see 5 guys in One Direction. We thought there were only 4. Apparently since then one quit. When they sang a cover of Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus, and the young girls in front of us announced, "Oh my god, this is their new song, it's so relevant," we knew we were far too old to be there. Also, as the concert was mostly 12 to 17 years old, the bars were closed. It was a fab day regardless, and it always makes me smile when I remember it. Story 5. Wish child and wish granter here. Strangest wish I heard from a fellow granter was a child who wanted to visit his dad in prison. That's all he wanted and would not be talked out of it. She offered to make the drive fancy at least because it was 2 hours away with a limo or a fun car ride, but he declined. His wish to simply see his imprisoned dad was granted. Plain and simple. The wishes I granted were pretty traditional. Disney or other vacations. My weirdest wish was more sad. It was for a family of a girl who was completely immobile with very low cognitive ability. The house was run down and reeked of weed. The home nurse was literally crying while holding the child. Her siblings said she wanted a pool. I was fuming. We talked with the mom who wouldn't leave her own bed for unknown reasons, bong on nightstand, and she agreed a pool wasn't the best idea. Nurse recommended a chair the child could sit in that would rock and calm her. Wish granted. Edit to add. FYI, my wish was Disney. Had a heart transplant in 1999. I'm fine now. About 60% of all wishes are Disney, and totally worth it. My family took me again on my 20-year heartiversary, and I'll never forget it. Huge shout out to OP for becoming a wish giver themselves. Or wish granter, I suppose is the term. It really is one of the most selfless and heart-filled acts I can imagine. And I'm not just saying that because OP had a heart transplant. It makes sense, too. Being given a gift that OP clearly loved, they experienced the impact it can have firsthand on a child's happiness. They're just Joy to be alive. That was a very sad way to phrase that, I'm sorry. Story 6. A friend of mine is a canine police officer. He helped Make-A-Wish grant a wish to a set of twins with the deadliest form of cystic fibrosis. Most of the times, kids with CF aren't allowed to be around others with it because of cross-infecting bacteria. Them being twins shortens their life expectancy even more. Well, these 10-year-old boys wanted to meet a police dog. My friend and some of his buddies upped the wish, and during their meeting of his dog, they got called to help solve 3, quote, crimes in their town. They pulled over a hijacker, found and arrested a robber, and helped find a missing 6-year-old, my friend's nephew. The town police department gave them certificates and honorary police badges for their work. Around 200 people showed up to where they got their awards to cheer them on. At their 11th birthday, they gave my friend a plaque they made with their dad, thanking him for the best day ever. Story 7. I had the privilege of working for Make-A-Wish at their national office for a number of years. Here are a few of my favorites, as best as I can remember them. 1. I wish to be a worker in a pickle factory. Turns out that during his chemotherapy, the child's favorite food became pickles, and was one of the few things he could manage to enjoy. So he wanted to meet the people who put the pickles in the jars, as he put it. The organization made it into a big deal, and you bet those pickle factory workers were thrilled to experience his joy that day. There was a photo in the office of this little boy in a hairnet, a beaming smile, as he watched pickle spears move by on a conveyor belt. Melts my heart. 2. I wish to have the experience of a World War II fighter pilot who crashed on a deserted island. During some of his hospital stays, this wish kid had visits from a few veterans who would visit the hospital and tell him stories of their experiences. He became really interested in military history. Make-A-Wish worked with a big contingent of people from Hawaii, including the US military, flew him to a little uninhabited island in Hawaii, and he got to experience with his dad and a few safety experts what it was like to be deserted for about 48 hours. 3. I wish to have a pet dragon. This was a tough one to make happen, but this child wanted a, quote, pet dragon he could train. So the volunteers started thinking about how they could make this happen, and they stumbled across someone who had some experience in this kind of thing, the creator of the Furby. Make-A-Wish set up a meeting between the two to help design it, and the Wish Kid was able to eventually get a little, mechanical, very lifelike, think toothless, dragon he could train. 4. I wish to be a national park ranger. This Wish Kid loved the outdoors and national parks. The parks had played an important role in how his mom had met some important people in her life. He spent a few days learning the ropes of being a ranger at Yosemite National Park and was even named an honorary park ranger. And 5. I wish to go to Mars. What I loved the most about Make-A-Wish is when volunteers first sit down with kids. They literally learn what interests this child, what makes them tick. They ask them, if you could wish for anything, what would it be? This process gives them the opportunity to think about all the possibilities. Some kids have very specific requests. Others simply want to go to Disney World, but ultimately this wish is so individualized that it is the perfect wish for that child. And there are a ton of benefits to the child and the family. It's a great organization. Story 8. Crusty, young, disabled vet here. I didn't want to post this because it still makes me cry to this day. It's one of the most fulfilling and awesome experiences I've ever been a part of to this day. Here goes. I used to work as an equipment specialist for the Air Force, maintaining pilot equipment, parachutes, survival kits, things like that. I was also their survival instructor, so anything these dudes needed, they knew I was there for them. One of our guys came and told me we had a couple of kids coming through for a Make-A-Wish and wanted to know if I could help out. They wanted to be pilots for the day. We couldn't fly with them, of course, but they got to hang out with us, walk around the flight line, sit in the jets, watch them taxi, take off and land. To be blunt, it upset me that none of my coworkers budged. I made 4 different full setups for the kids to try on, test the G-suit with them, try on all the equipment, see the ejection parachutes all stretched out for inspection, told them everything there was to know. Their faces were lit up. After they left, I had to take a half day off. I couldn't keep myself together. I truly hope it was a good day for them. And if any of the kids are reading this or hear this, I hope they reach out. Story 9. In Orlando, there's a place called Give Kids the World Village. It was started by a Holocaust survivor who learned about a kid whose wish was to go to Disney, but the kid died before all the arrangements could be made. He swore that would never happen again and opened this volunteer-run village that has housing, food, even a 24/7 ice cream parlor, handicap-accessible rides, an arcade, movie theater, you name it, they've got it. They provide the transportation to and from all of the different parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, etc. as well. It's really amazing. Before I started volunteering, I thought that going to Disney was kind of lame to choose as a wish. I was young. Then I realized just how amazing it is for these kids to get to do this with their entire family. A lot of families shared that their kids enjoyed being at the village more than the parks themselves. Story 10. My brother has NF1, a condition that causes large, non-cancerous tumors to grow over major nerves, and my brother had a baseball-sized one in his armpit that threatened to cause him to lose control over that arm forever. As a result, my mom asked a Make-A-Wish person if he qualified for one, and he did. He played around with the idea of going to Harry Potter World in Universal Studios Florida, but ended up deciding on a week-long trip to Japan instead. We ended up staying at a high-end hotel in the middle of Tokyo, went to Japanese Disney World, which was coincidentally my first experience at a Disney park, traveled to Kyoto to get the best street food I've ever tasted, hiked up a mountain that was teeming with monkeys. I also caught diarrhea there due to some dubious water, but other than that, it was great. And went on a Tokyo-wide tour that began in a second hotel, which was probably the single fanciest place I'll ever go to. The bathroom stalls were placed on the opposite side of a bridge over an artificial river, just to give you an idea of how fancy this place was. It was an experience I'll never forget. Oh, and we got to ride in a limo to and from the airport. Story 11. Not a strange wish, but unique. My son was 6 years old when he was diagnosed with cancer. He wished to go to Cartoon Network and meet Ben 10. We live in North Carolina, so traveling to California was a big deal. His wish was granted and we had an amazing trip. The people at Cartoon Network had never hosted a Wish Kid, and they showered him with attention and gifts. Every person we met stopped what they were doing and talked with him. The graphic designers drew pictures for him to take home, and the entire cast of Ben 10 hung out and ate lunch with him while he got an exclusive viewing of an unreleased episode. Everyone there was pretty emotional about his visit and said they felt honored that he would choose to come meet them as his wish. We will never, ever forget that day. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. It helps me remember, on days when you think that the world is a crap place, there really are good people out there. As someone who does voiceover work and is a huge fan of animation, this is incredible. I'm so glad this kid got the VIP treatment. I hope he left that day so happy. I bet everyone working there that day never forgot it. Story 12. My wife used to work at Disneyland playing Cruella. One day her manager came by while she was getting ready for the day to tell her that she was going to do a private audience for a child from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. My wife was absolutely shocked. She'd worked there for years. She saw the princesses and Minnie and Mickey Mouse do hundreds of Make-A-Wishes. The villains had never done a single one. She thought today was her lucky day, and she was going to be making a wish for the rare Cruella superfan. This was years ago before Cruella had her own movie and was popular. Next, my wife enters the private audience room, which she hadn't even been in before, and she puts on her Cruella attitude. Before she knows it, she sees this diminutive teenage child being wheeled over who's pointing her finger and yelling. As the child is wheeled closer, my wife hears the child yelling, "You're a creep," over and over again. She tried to play it off, saying all the standard Cruella lines and making jokes, but the kid kept screaming, "You're a creep," while the family laughed and took photos. Now, the kid wasn't 100% there mentally, so my wife didn't take it that hard, but it was pretty hilarious and confusing for my wife. Story 13. Disclaimer, not a Wish employee, not a strange wish, just a Wish dad who understands the power of a wish. First, thank you for all the stories. I'm over here on the couch tearing up as my little girl sings 4 non-blondes obliviously across the room. Wishes are awesome, and here's why. These kids are going through or have gone through stuff that leaves a mark on them. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, these kids and their families have taken a beating. We found out our daughter had severe heart issues before she was born. We were advised to terminate the pregnancy by one of the doctors who was trying to explain what this meant for us and our daughter. 3 months later, she was born 4 weeks premature and was airlifted from the hospital to the closest children's hospital. 5 miles, but she's a princess already. 9 days later, she has her first open heart surgery, so she's had a scar on her chest as long as she can remember. 22 days later, we take her home. It's amazing, seeing that kids who are in the top 10% go home after a month, and some never do. My wife built a friendship with the mom of the girl in the room next to us. Her daughter and ours shared a variation of the same name. Her daughter did not have a positive outcome, survivor's guilt. Anyway, little girl came home. We went into lockdown. No one in nor out unless you basically bathed in hand sanitizer because of how susceptible to infection she was. Isolation. Everything about our daughter was critical. We measured how much she ate, how much she weighed, what her oxygen saturation was. We had to log everything. Oh, and she refused to eat. She had to be right at that little gap between asleep and awake to eat anything. To awaken, she would fight and spit it all back up. To asleep, and she would aspirate. Lack of sleep and stress. Things progressed. We went to her cardiologist every other week. She grew and developed a wonderful personality. Awesome! But we were on the lookout for her next surgery. When this one started to be ineffective, they have to do something different. Constant heightened sense of awareness. At 9 months, she had her second surgery. They changed some of the plumbing in her heart, and it raised her blood pressure in her head and torso. She had constant headaches until she adapted to it. We left the hospital after 2 weeks with a little girl who hurt all the time. She adjusted to it, but we had to keep an eye on things, because once her saturations got low, it would be time for her third surgery, if her heart made it that far. Our girl wanted to run and play, but after about 10 minutes of activity, she had to rest for an hour. We used supplemental oxygen occasionally, and we always had it just in case. Toward the end of her third year, she didn't run much. Most of her time was spent just lounging. This girl loves the outdoors, loves hiking, any sort of nature activity. So I would put her in the pack and we would hike. We would walk for a few minutes and I would carry for an hour or so. We were all tired. We were scared, but none of us would say as much. Her third surgery was in 2017. She was 4. This one she remembers. Waking up naked and hurting with tubes and wires literally everywhere. 3 chest tubes, IVs in both arms and a foot, arterial line in her neck, and catheterized. She didn't handle the restraints well, but there wasn't much we could do. Within 48 hours, they had her out of bed. 48 hours after having her body cooled down, her heart stopped and replumbed. She was taking steps. My girl is the sweetest thing ever. She really is. She cried, but was always polite and understanding. She rode around in a wagon handing out stickers to the nurses, but pulling lines was a fight. I'm sure it hurt. Her arterial line was the worst. Her nurses let her help pulling that one. It was the only way to keep her focused and not freak out. So I said all that to drive home the point of what a wish is. It's an escape from reality. It's the opportunity to not think about the treatments of the past or the prognosis of the future. My daughter chose a Disney vacation. Give kids the world, the resort that Wish kids use, is a thing to behold. They pamper your kid. Ice cream, mani-pedi, mini golf, pizza, and cookies. The mayor drops by to read a bedtime story. Characters from Disney and Universal come by for those who are mobility limited. It is awesome. And the Disney experience is something that few people will ever be able to achieve. You want to meet Chewbacca? Here's the front of the line. You want to sit and talk with Ariel? No problem. You guys wait here while we bring another Ariel for the guests. This one is yours. Ray gives you a hug. Buzz and Woody are at your disposal. Nothing is an inconvenience, and you waiting for anything is not an option. For reference, the main ride for the Avatar was a 3-hour line. We walked up, through the door, and were in the ride without breaking stride. All the Disney parks were at our disposal, Universal and Legoland as well. My girl was up early, running hard and down late. I got to see her be a normal kid. I got to see her see herself as a normal kid. That wish replaced all the bad things she had been through. All stories about, remember that time in the hospital, got overwritten by, remember that time at Disney, at Universal, at Give the Kids the World. Wishes, and especially the people involved in making them a reality, are a special breed. I encourage everyone to find a way to be a part of it. Only about half the eligible kids get their wish granted. I know this one isn't really directly related to the prompt, but I figured it was heart-touching enough that it was worth reading anyway. I hope you guys will forgive me. I thought it was just really sweet. Story 14. When I was 13, I was diagnosed with leukemia. After a year and a half of treatment, my family and I did our wish to go to Greece. Although it wasn't that weird. But in Athens, we stayed in a business hotel with all-inclusive gourmet breakfast. My family would eat in our pajamas every morning, while everyone else ate small breakfasts in their business suits. Another thing we did in Santorini was ride up a mountain on the backs of donkeys. All 6 of my family on different donkeys. It was the end of the day, so the animals were tired, and we didn't sign any sort of liability papers. We just went for it on the steep cliff face. Needless to say, my parents were hanging on for dear life, while my bald and sickly 15-year-old self laughed all the way to the top of the mountains. I used to get a lot of surgeries done. Before I decided my wish, I woke up after one of my surgeries and told my mom, I wanted my wish to be Mike Ditka to give me a piggyback ride. Obviously, that wasn't it, but my parents got a kick out of it. When you do make a wish, your sort of wish guides tell you to ask above and beyond. It's better to ask for more and get less than to ask for less when you could have gotten more. My Make-A-Wish changed my life. Story 15. I was a Make-A-Wish kid. My wish was to meet my favorite band ever, 311. At the time, my friends and I had a band and covered their songs. I had the Hodgkin's cancer at 13, so it was gone or into remission in cancer language. I was flown to Orange County, California, and a limo picked my family and I up to take us to the show. As they were sound checking, the guitarist handed me his guitar, and all I could remember was the beginning riff to Amber. Tim, the guitarist, messed with the effect pedal so it would sound the way Amber is supposed to. The drummer jumped in and I played with my favorite band. It feels like it was a dream at this point. They were the nicest guys ever. During the actual show, there was a projector screen with a dude hitting a bong, and everyone started blazing up. My humble family was not used to this, and it was pretty funny. After all this, we went to Disneyland and skipped all the lines riding a roller coaster over and over again. I was allowed backstage, and the band was all chilling with me, and then someone said Adam Sandler was in their tour bus. They all left to smoke weed with Adam Sandler. I stayed back and talked to some lady that claimed to know Bradley Nowell. Wish I could have said I blazed it up with Adam Sandler, though. Make-A-Wish can do a lot of things. Blazing with Adam Sandler is something that I think might not be on the list. Sorry, OP. Sounds like you had a blast regardless, though. Anyway, that was the last story for today. It was a bit of a sad one, a bit of a funny one. There was a good mix in here. But for now, I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.